Hello and welcome, I'm your Code Monkey, and I just got back from Unite 22 in Montreal. It was great fun, lots of interesting talks, and it's always great to meet up with other Unity creators and Unity devs. And actually, just before I get to the main part of this video, there was a little tidbit of information that I picked up at Unite which explains quite a lot about Unity communication, or lack thereof, these past few years. There was the issue with Iron Source, where some misinformation spread like wildfire and there was no official clarification from Unity. Dots was constantly talked about and then suddenly nothing, and a bunch more things where people felt Unity just was not communicating enough. Well, it turns out there's actually a very good reason for that. As you might know, Unity went public a few years ago, and when a company goes public, there are tons of disclosures that have to be filed. And especially with regards to a merger agreement, like with ironSource, while the merger is pending, they are extremely limited on what they can say publicly. So apparently that caused a lot of Unity employees to be really scared about saying anything in public and potentially getting into trouble. Once I heard that, everything suddenly became much more clear. With that in mind, the lack of communication definitely makes more sense. Nowadays, everyone is a bit more clear on the rules, on what they can and cannot say, so they definitely have improved in terms of communication. Recently, they've been doing games-focused blog posts, communicating lots of things they've done. There's also the Dev Blitz, where a team from Unity answers every question they get. Dot's getting some more communication with some specific timelines and so on. So that's a pretty important piece of information that I learned at Unite, which really helps understand some things that happened in the past few years. Okay, so Unite 22. Here are some of my highlights from the keynote, the roadmap talk, and the various other talks that I attended. The main theme behind pretty much everything was essentially iterative improvement based on user feedback. From everything that I heard, Unity is actively listening to feedback from every single source and acting upon it to make the engine better and better for everyone. So starting off with the keynote, it began with the usual bunch of stats. They repeat these stats quite often that nowadays I barely pay attention, but if you think about it, these are truly massive and definitely worth celebrating. Unity is used by 50% of all games, including 70% of the top mobile games. Through all those games, Unity reaches 3 billion players. That's a mind-bogglingly large number. And in VR, it also has a huge presence with 60 to 70% of top VR games being made with Unity. When you think about it, those numbers really are truly insane. The keynote itself was split into 3 sections. First, the build section, which covers everything Unity does to help you build your own games. Then scale, which is how Unity helps you scale your game to reach millions of players with ease. And finally, innovation, which of course is my favorite section, since the main thing about it is all about the exciting world of dots. But before we get to that, let's start from the beginning. The build section starts off with one of the most important things about Unity, how it's multi-platform. You make the game just once and you can build it for dozens of platforms. They are constantly adding more and more. The most recent ones were Chrome OS and the Meta Quest Pro, which just came out a few weeks ago. For building your game, you use one of the 2 render pipelines, AGRP if you want maximum visual fidelity. It continues getting updates, making it look better and better, and there's a bunch of gorgeous looking games that already showcase what AGRP can do. And URP for running your game on anything while still making it look excellent, like the recently released Marvel Snap or LEGO Builder's Journey. They announced a pretty big update to the XR Interaction Toolkit. I haven't had time to touch VR development just yet, but it's great to see this continuing to get more and more updates. This toolkit basically helps you create interactions that work on any VR or AR device, so there's no need for tons of ifs to run logic depending on this device. Building your game also requires UI, and for that, UI Toolkit got another huge update. This is a tool that I've made a bunch of research on, but I haven't had the time to make a proper video tutorial just yet. This tool helps you easily make editor tools. If you've ever tried building tools with IMGUI, then you know how much of a nightmare it is. UI Toolkit helps make that extremely easy. And it has the benefit of working for both editor as well as for runtime UI, so you can use the same tool for both. Although at the moment, editor UI is already fully supported, while runtime UI is supported, but I believe it's not yet fully production ready. One of the main benefits of UI Toolkit is the separation of concerns. Basically, the way it works is you define the structure in one place, then the style in another, and the logic in another. All 3 of those things are nicely decoupled, nicely separated, which means you can greatly improve iteration speed. You don't need to recompile code changes just to change the style. You swap out the style sheet and everything updates. One nice benefit of that system is you could, for example, include multiple styles in your game. So perhaps in a multiplayer game with 2 teams, you could very easily swap out the entire UI visual if playing on Team A or Team B, or you could just let the player choose from a bunch of UI styles or a bunch more things. Separating the visuals from the structure and from the logic is a really interesting approach for building UI, and it's especially useful if you're working on a team mixing programmers and designers. Another big update is how starting in Unity 22.2, all of the default Unity editor windows, they're all now built using UI Toolkit. One big benefit of that is you can now easily include property drawers in your own custom editor since everything will be using UI Toolkit. Coming in the future is also a new data binding system. I must say this is the one part about UI Toolkit that I felt was needlessly complex, so I'm definitely looking forward to improvements in this area. Then came one of the biggest announcements, and it came pretty quickly. There's a lot of people who are pretty frustrated with the render pipelines and how they are separate. For me, I don't really worry too much about it. I just make my projects with URP and that's really it. But still, this is a pretty interesting announcement. Soon you will be able to have both URP and HDRP in the same project. The main benefit of this would be if you have a game releasing on both consoles and mobile, you could use HDRP for the console build and then easily swap out everything for URP to make the mobile build. Another benefit would be if you start the game with URP, then later on you decide that you want to use HDRP, you could then switch. They're working on making everything more compatible, making it easier to make shaders that work in both render pipelines, so it's a pretty big deal that will hopefully make using and swapping render pipelines much more of a painless process. Beyond that, both render pipelines continue getting upgrades. URP is getting forward plus rendering, which enables you to have tons of lights instead of being limited to just 8. It also now has decal support and a bunch of rendering layers, letting you place bullet holes and blood spatter throughout your whole levels, and a bunch more features. As for HDRP, they showcase an HDRI sky, looks really great, and then you can also swap out for a physically based sky. Moving the direction of the light makes for some really gorgeous sunsets. Then on top of that, you can add a bunch of cloud layers. They are separated into multiple layers and you can play around with the opacity for each one. There's also a volumetric cloud system. It's really gorgeous watching the clouds block the sunlight with some good looking god rays, and you can even animate it by turning a bright blue sky into dark and foggy. Then the water system, which also looks excellent, and the whole world is filled with tons of light probes for some gorgeous lighting, and the important thing is these are part of a tool called Adaptive Probe Volume, which automatically places light probes for you. So there's no need to place them all by hand one by one. With all this, if you're using HDRP and building a realistic game, then you can build something truly spectacular in just a handful of clicks. During this section, one thing that I noticed in chat was lots of people questioning what is the performance in HDRP. I definitely want to give this a try to see just how performant it is, so stay tuned for a quick video on that. That makes up the build section. After that was the scale section, all about helping you build massive games with ease and excellent performance. Starting off with DX12 support being production ready in 22.2. DX12 has tons of benefits related to multi-threading and doing very complex work in a much more efficient manner. Especially if your game is CPU bound, you can expect up to 30% performance improvements. That's really awesome for just toggling a simple switch. This allows you to build massive games with huge worlds and tons of objects. Another part related to scaling your game is supporting it after launch. That's where all of the UGS tools come in handy. Plastic SEM got a bunch of updates, so working as a team is easier than ever before. Same thing for Cloud Build, also improvements across the board. And Cloud Content Delivery, this is Unity's Content Delivery Network, or CDN, which enables you to update assets in your game without having to upload a brand new build. I have a full detailed tutorial about how to use Cloud Content Delivery in my Ultimate Unity Overview course. The system is based on addressables, which I covered in detail in another video. One recent example of a game using all of these tools is the recently released Marvel Snap. They made over 15,000 builds and pushed out tons of content updates. Some more useful UGS tools for scaling your game are Remote Config, Game Overrides, and Analytics. They'll let you do A/B testing, define different stats and values that different players receive, and you can then analyze the results. Again, all of it from the Unity dashboard without ever having to upload a brand new build. So you can see how all of these tools work together, enabling you to iterate upon the game to make it the best it can be. After that was the multiplayer section, starting off with some very impressive stats. More and more people are making multiplayer games and even more want to get started. Just a few weeks ago, they launched Netcode for Game Objects, which is their official multiplayer solution. I made one of my most detailed tutorials ever when it came out. Check it out if you want to learn how to make multiplayer games. They mentioned their other multiplayer tools, which I very much want to cover in future tutorials. There's Multiplay, which is apparently now called Game Server Hosting. That's a server for creating and managing dedicated servers. And Matchmaker, which allows you to define rules and match players with one another. Finally, we get to the exciting innovation section. It's all about how Unity is innovating, making tools that enable you to build any game you can imagine. Starting off, of course, with dots. And something that I really like is how they start off this section by highlighting V-Rising, which is an example of a game that you can already go play and is already using dots. So even though it's only hitting 1.0 production ready in a few months, it has already proved itself in production. V-Rising used dots to handle massive object streaming. There are hundreds of thousands of interactable objects. This would be impossible to do without dots. Another example is Zenith. It's a VR MMO, which means massive amount of players and objects. All of those players need to update their EXP whenever they kill an enemy or do something. Updating that many game objects every second would be nearly impossible, so that's where dots really helps. Then Ixion, which I'm not very familiar with, but appears to be a sci-fi city builder on a massive scale simulating thousands of objects. And finally Detonation Racing, which is a mobile game that showcased a really awesome feature at GDC. Since dots is all about determinism, you can read back and replay sections of the game. That makes iterating upon the game design an extremely easy process. The big announcement is that version 1.0 is graduating from experimental into preview in preparation for a full release on the 22 LTS cycle. And once again, a very important thing is highlighting how you don't have to go full dots or full game objects. The answer is a hybrid workflow. Use game objects where they make sense and use entities where it makes sense. I also noticed lots of excitement in chat when the dot section came up. Lots of people are definitely looking forward to it, including myself. I'm actually right now working on a mini tutorial just checking out the current state of dots. Then when 1.0 is finally fully released in 22 LTS, that's when I'll really get busy making tons of dots tutorials, so stay tuned for that. Then more innovation in visuals. Unity picked up the Weta Tools and Ziva Dynamics. They're currently hard at work on making those work in real time and integrate them into the engine. There's a really impressive hair package demo that you can go around and play with right now. You can also download the digital human used in the very impressive enemies demo. That demo was originally made using some extremely high-end 4D captures, but now they've got it working with a Ziva puppet. I have no idea how these are created, but you have a bunch of sliders you can play around to get pretty much any expression you can think of. And somehow all of this works in just 50 megabytes, so you could use this hyper-realistic Ziva puppet for all of your NPCs, which is pretty impressive. They even showcase it running in real time on an Xbox Series X. The goal is to bring all of these super impressive tools that are used in super high-end Hollywood movies and bring them to every single Unity developer. So that's an overview of the keynote, lots of improvements in pretty much every area. The other very important talk was the roadmap. Here they mentioned many things that were also mentioned in the keynote, all of the awesome things coming out in 22.2, which is coming out in the next few weeks, as well as a few weeks for further in the future in Unity 23. Again, starting off by emphasizing feedback and how everything they do is based on the feedback they get from users like me or you. Lots of performance improvements, making everything just a bit faster. Shader compilation, replacing prefabs. Addressables build report, which now lets you see more details. The package manager also now lets you customize cache location, pretty great if you're limited for space. And also package signing, so you can verify that you're grabbing the right package. One nice one is a plan to simplify the input system workflows. It's a great system, I've covered it in full detail in another video, although it does require quite a handful of steps to get it set up at first, so simplifying that does seem great. They showcase the memory profiler, really awesome tool, tons of stats. If you have memory issues with your game, then this tool will help you very quickly pinpoint them. The shader graph also got a full screen effects node. Previously this was only possible through a very hacky way, so having a proper way of doing it is great. Adaptive probe volume, which I mentioned a while ago. This is a tool for helping you position light probes automatically instead of having to do it manually one by one, which is definitely a huge help. It's already available in HDRP and is coming to URP in 23. Ray tracing is also coming out of preview in 23.1, so that's fun. Really, most of the things over here on this part of the roadmap talk were the same as on the keynote, so Unity definitely took feedback to heart when tons of people were angry that the keynotes and roadmaps were always talking about awesome things, but that were also many years in the future. So they definitely focus on only talking about things that are either already out or just around the corner. One thing that got quite a bit of detail is the multiplayer. They're working on a tool for helping you test multiplayer games without having to make separate builds, so you can run multiple instances of the game inside the same editor. That's a really awesome tool, extremely useful for testing and making multiplayer games. Another really great one is network simulation. It's a tool for helping you test out every possible multiplayer problem, everything from lag spikes, latency, and random disconnections. And yet another really awesome thing is they are currently working on Unity Transport 2.0, which will feature WebGL support. That is the one main limitation on the current version. It does not work in WebGL, so seeing this is excellent news. Once again, making sure that Unity is multi-platform and any game you make can be played on essentially anything. They're also working on the ability of recording and playing back multiplayer packets, again super useful for testing, as well as making it easier to support large persistent worlds. So lots of detail on the multiplayer roadmap. There were a bunch of comments in my multiplayer video wondering if it's safe to use netcode for game objects or if Unity won't just deprecate it soon. Based on the current state of the multiplayer tools and everything mentioned here, it seems very clear to me that they are in it for the long term. Then the dot section of the roadmap, which has some really nice extra details. Once again, everything is on track for 1.0 with 23 LTS. There are some upcoming samples, Starting off with the original one, Megacity. It's a really impressive demo they launched all the way back when Dots was first announced. Now they are going to upgrade all of that code to Dots 1.0. This is going to be the sample that will showcase large-scale streaming and subscene authoring. The second demo is called ECS Racing. It's a competitive multiplayer game showcasing netcode for entities. It's server authoritative with client-side prediction, interpolation, and lag compensation. And beyond that, there's also tons of tutorials and learning material showcasing best practices. There's already a bunch of them out right now. I'll definitely be studying those to learn the best practices. And they also recently acquired the Dots Rival character controller. It's an excellent fully featured Dots character controller, which is now available and free for everyone. Also, they updated the Dots and ECS main pages. So if you want to learn a bunch more about Dots, those have quite a lot of info and some very helpful links. As for the future of Dots after 1.0, they are working on improving crossplay determinism to make sure that every single one of the platforms that Unity supports always behaves in the exact same way. Then they are also working on tools for making large open world games easier to build. Also the ECS animation package. Importantly, this is going to be pretty much the first thing where the end user will never know it's using ECS. For regular users, they will keep making animations as usual using game objects, but in the background, the system will be using ECS to make it extremely performant. That to me sounds like it's going to be one of the true tests of Dots, seeing how it improves the quality of everyone who uses Unity and not just people using Dots directly. Then for the rest of the roadmap, there are also some new terrain tools coming up, using splines to make rivers and a bunch of ways of creating some gorgeous environments. For mobile, there's going to be faster deployment on Android by doing incremental Delta builds. Also incremental builds on console. WebGL is also getting tons of improvements, starting with mobile browser support, making your WebGL games play well on a phone inside a browser. It's getting a better memory inspector. And perhaps best of all, WebGL is getting multi-threaded support with native C++ code. Honestly, I didn't even know this was possible, so that's truly insane. That, coupled with the previous news that the Network Transport Layer 2.0 is going to support WebGL, seems like next year is going to be really special for web game devs. Then a bunch more news on the XRI toolkit, how you can simulate AR devices in the editor, XR templates, and more. And Plastic SCM is also getting a very robust web dashboard. So quite a lot of nice improvements coming in the near future. Beyond that, I attended a talk on Unity Gaming Services. I'm working on various tutorials for how to use those tools. There's also a really fun talk on how to prototype games, how your prototype should be set up to answer a specific question, how prototypes can be cheaper, and a fun technique was to make 20 game ideas in just 20 minutes. There was another one on some things coming to version 22.2, like the splines package. There was a nice AMA with Laura, who is the Dots chief at Unity, and a bunch more. Some of the talks are already online, and some will be added over the next few days. Definitely give them a look, you will definitely learn something new. So that was Unite 22. It's been a long time since the last Unite. That one was all the way back in 2019, so it was fun to do this again. I got to meet some other Unity content creators, and even one person who recognized me. Thanks for that. I hope you're really enjoying the turn-based strategy course. The future of Unity is looking great. I'm actively researching lots of these things, especially Dots. I can't believe 1.0 is just around the corner. Thanks to Unity for bringing me out to Montreal. Canada was a lovely place and surprisingly warm. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.